Good morning, friends. I want to welcome you all here to worship this morning. I want to welcome folks worshiping with us online. I want to encourage everybody to grab the friendship pad, to fill that out, to greet one another, to encourage each other to stick around for a time of fellowship. Today, just a couple of announcements. Today is All Saints Sunday, so today we'll be remembering those who have died in the past year. Some of them will, all the ones given to the office or reminded to the office are included in our worship service today. There's going to be a moment where I'll invite you to share another person if you would so choose. We'll also be sharing the sacrament of communion, and just to remind us all that everyone is welcome to the table. You'll be invited forward when that time comes. The folks worshiping online, I would encourage you to grab some elements for yourself to be ready for that time of worship. We are in a new month, and that means we have a new mission partner. And our mission partner for the month of November is Habitat for Humanity. So whether you've been on a Habitat build, whether you have made use of the Restore in one way or another, Habitat has been a wonderful partner of ours for a long time, and the work that they do in our community is truly remarkable. So I would encourage you when the time comes to support them. I want to keep on your radar for November 20th. November 20th, we will be dedicating our pledges, and in celebration, we're going to be having a chili cook-off. I scoped out the list before church, and I think we're off to a good start. And the chili competition is heating up, as they say. So I personally look forward to who among us is the best chili maker, and I hope that you'll bring your very best on November 20th, all right? That's it. I'm sorry. I do want to say I'm sorry that none of you won the Powerball. At least I think. I mean, maybe you're here today to make a special announcement, but anyway, let's stand and worship God.
Join me in the call to worship. Great is the Lord, and greatly to be praised. For the Lord is gracious and merciful, slow to anger, and abounding in steadfast love. Great is the Lord, and greatly to be praised.
Oh
be seated. I'm realizing I forgot to say Mr. Mitchell is going to be rocking the piano today. Thank you, Mitchell. We gather at the fountain to remember God's blessings, to confess our sin before God, before one another, trusting that our Redeemer loves us, forgives us, and that Christ's grace extends from generation to generation. So, seeking God's forgiveness together, let us pray. God of the ages, as we remember the saints who have gone before us, we are grateful for their witness and humbled by their example. Though they have marked well the path of faith, following in that way is hard for us. We drift and waver. Remind us that the saints before us were not perfect, just forgiven, saved by grace. We ask for that forgiveness, and we pray for the courage to trust in that grace. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Let us stand and receive the assurance of God's grace. The hope to which we are called is the glorious inheritance for all the saints, the immeasurable greatness of God's power for us who believe. This is good news.
In Jesus Christ, we are forgiven, healed, and made whole.
Friends, somebody had a good idea. Slow your roll. But no, you're okay. I'm sorry. So, somebody had a really good idea, which was, there's some folks worshiping online with us, and so we pass these with each other. Could everybody just peek over at that camera over there? Maybe, Mike, can you zoom us out a little bit? Peace be with you, worshiping online. Oh, that was lovely. Good ideas. Let's make them happen. But also, the peace of Christ be with you all.
And also with you.
Share Christ's peace with one another.
Please be seated and pray with me. God of wisdom, by your Spirit, May your word be proclaimed, that we may know good news in our hearts and minds and bear witness to the glory of our Lord Jesus Christ in word and deed. Quiet in us any voice but your own, that we might hear your word to us today. Amen. The scripture lesson is from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 20, verses 27 through 40. The Lord is our God, the Lord alone. Listen to the word of the Lord. Some Sadducees, those who say there is no resurrection, came to Jesus and asked him a question. Teacher, Moses wrote for us that if a man's brother dies leaving a wife but no children, the man shall marry the widow and raise up children for his brother. Now there were 7 brothers. The first married a woman and died childless. Then the second and the third married her. And so, in the same way, all 7 died childless. Finally, the woman also died. In the resurrection, therefore, whose wife will the woman be? For the 7 had married her. Jesus said to them, those who belong to this age marry and are given in marriage. But those who are considered worthy of a place in that age and in the resurrection from the dead neither marry nor are given in marriage. Indeed, they cannot die anymore, because they are like angels and are children of God, being children of the resurrection. And the fact that the dead are raised, Moses himself showed in the story about the bush, where he speaks of the Lord as the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Now, he is God not of the dead, but of the living, for to him all of them are alive. Then some of the scribes answered, "Oh, teacher, you have spoken well," for they no longer dared to ask him another question. Keep these words in your heart. The Lord is our God, the Lord alone. Thanks be to God, who calls us to connect, inspire, and serve.
May I invite some children? I get it. Come on down. Awesome. So, last week when I asked what you're going for Halloween, we had one doctor, one Grim Reaper, and one undecided. Did anybody go as a saint for Halloween? Maybe? No? Okay, I need to do a little information gathering here. Hello, welcome. Does anybody know what a saint is? Oh, tough crowd. Does anybody have a guess? Shot in the dark. It's right there. Shoot, go for it. Is it kind of like a disciple? I think that's on the right track. Anybody? Any other guesses? Go for it, Jacob. Somebody who goes to church a lot. All right. Do you know any saints? Wow. See, what are you sitting on this for, man? You gotta share. So St. Patrick. We hear about St. Patrick's Day. Any other saints you've ever heard of? Yeah. What you got? Saint Augustine, yeah, I'm a fan. I'm a favorite. So a saint, in the Catholic Church, a person can become a saint, right? But so why are we talking about saints today? We're Presbyterians. But so a saint is someone that God thinks is awesome. All right? Now, what do you got to do? Or can you do anything to make God think you're awesome? You could pray a lot. Okay, be kind, do nice things. Well, here's the thing. God is like your grandma. Because your grandma thinks you're awesome no matter what. You know, some of the artwork that you bring home and your grandma's like, this is amazing. It's not always that good. Okay? So, yeah, you could pray a lot. Yeah, you could do kind things. But do you think your grandma would still think you're awesome if you didn't? That doesn't mean we shouldn't pray. It doesn't mean we shouldn't do nice things. But what I want you to know today is God thinks you're awesome. And that means you're saints and they're saints. Well, I think that's where I'm going. But so it's a special thing that God thinks we're awesome. And since God thinks we're awesome, we may as well go do some awesome things. All right? So we should help people. We should pray. I saw a bunch of you throw some money in that bucket. We can use our money and the things that we have to help other people. All right? So great work, awesome people. Let's say a prayer. Would you pray, repeat after me? Dear Jesus, thank you so much for putting our artwork on your fridge and letting us know we're awesome. Sometimes we don't feel awesome. Help us to remember that you think we are. Amen. Thank you so much for coming up here, crew. All right, have a seat. I thought about coming to stand in the pulpit when you guys were playing. I'm trying to make a joke. So it might be the election season, but this election's been going on for 2 years, and as much as my high hopes think that on Wednesday all these ads are going to stop, I know well enough pretty soon it will fire right back up. So enjoy it while it stops, okay? But I can't help but hear this passage today, this debate between Jesus and the Sadducees, as a kind of political ad. So if you can allow me to retell this passage in my most ominous political voice, or at least humor me, okay? The Sadducees deny there is a resurrection. Why are they so afraid of the afterlife? What do they have to hide? The Sadducees don't need to worry about the afterlife because they have it so good. And your temple taxes make their life of luxury possible. A vote for the Sadducees is a vote for higher temple taxes. Jesus of Nazareth, he says you don't have to have a spouse in the afterlife. That might work for him because he's not married. But why doesn't he care about you and your spouse? Jesus of Nazareth claims his father was a carpenter, but we know what's really going on. Jesus of Nazareth, wrong for Nazareth, wrong for Jerusalem. Thank you. The thing is, it's not so far from what's happening in this passage. This contentious situation unfolding in Jerusalem, it's a debate about power and authority, the same that we might have during an election. Jesus, when we get to this point in Luke's gospel, Jesus has ridden into town on a donkey on what we know as Palm Sunday. He's shown up to the temple and made a scene, driving out the money changers. And now he's been holding court. He's staked out his little corner of the temple, and he is teaching and debating with anyone who will walk up to him and ask a question. This question that we hear today is really the third question that has come to Jesus from different pockets of the Jerusalem establishment. And what you need to know for this passage to make a little extra sense is that he is on the Sadducees' turf. The Sadducees were in charge of the temple. They oversaw everything that happened at the temple. And so for Jesus to show up, driving out the money changers, turning over tables, well, that's not very good for Sadducee business. To worship God in Jesus' time, you needed to have access to the temple. And the temple gave the Sadducees a great deal of power and a great deal of wealth. And this Jesus shows up threatening them on all of these fronts. What you should also know about the Sadducees, in addition to the fact that they didn't believe in the resurrection, and that's not necessarily so remarkable in the sense that if you make your way through the Hebrew Bible, the resurrection is relatively a new idea. For people to start thinking about the afterlife is a relatively new idea. So in addition to that, their scripture was only the 5 books of Moses. So what we would know as Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. Those 5. So this would make them different from other Jewish groups, like the Pharisees. The Pharisees would have thought, yes, the 5 books of Moses, but also the prophets. and also some other writings like the Psalms and also some rabbinical writings. That would have made up their scripture tradition. So the Sadducees, they're not just clinging to the past or their way. They're really clinging to a grip on power here. And I think it's really important not to lose sight of that dynamic as this passage plays out. And it's a mistake for us to think that Jesus, just shows up with a newer, more progressive version of Judaism and then therefore makes it better. This is really a contest of ideas, and so a contest for the tradition of Judaism. And, as history plays out, these little sects of, frankly, denominations of Judaism will go their own separate ways, but Christianity was one of those Jewish denominations for a really long time, okay? So the difference that we've got to notice is that who it is that has power and who it is that has authority. The Sadducees claim to be stewards of God's power, which just so happened to give them power and great wealth. But their understanding of who God is and how God was, being bound to the temple, ultimately sort of locks God in place. And Jesus, who, as we make our way through the Gospels, says God has all the power. God has all the authority. When Jesus shows up healing and forgiving and feeding, he's pointing to God's power. And this God that Jesus points to, and this understanding of God, gives God all power and authority over life and death, and God in turn gives that power to the least and the last through Jesus. So these are two very different stories to live your life by. Two very different understandings of how the past and tradition can shape our present and our future. The past can be like an anchor. It can hold us in place, and it can make us want to cling tightly to what has been, hoping that it always will be. It can hold us back from moving forward or changing or growing. But the past, too, it can also give us roots. Roots that help us to grow, nourish our lives, give us inspiration, and help us to flourish. The past is powerful. We know from trauma research that our past and the history of our ancestors, all of that shapes who we are today. How we respond to new challenges, to stress, to adversity, is all shaped by our responses in the past and by several generations, which is wild to think. But those same responses can also make us resilient, so that when times get tough, we can face whatever comes, because we've either faced it before or we've faced something similar before, and can use that kind of courage to approach things with confidence and openness. In the same way, our past can make us even more fearful. We've been hurt before. We've lost before. Let's just cling to what we have. It's our memories that help us to navigate through time, calling to mind core memories that give us strength, as well as some that trap us in shame. Maybe you've met someone who's lost a spouse or a child, and they may as well have died that day too. Our family lost a good neighbor this year, and his wife died 7 years ago, and you might have thought that he died that same day. Every day was a reminder that his wife wasn't there anymore. But I bet you've also met people who lose someone they love, and they go on to thrive because the memory of that loved one inspires them to live life to the fullest, because that loved one would have wanted that for them. And so they face today and tomorrow with a kind of courage. I want to share this quote from Frederick Buechner. He talks about 2 ways of remembering. So he says, one way is to make an excursion from the living present back to the dead past. It's the old sock who remembers how things used to be. But he says there's another way. The other way is to summon the dead past back into the living present. The young widow remembers her husband, and he is there beside her. This is the kind of remembering that Jesus asks us to do when Jesus says, "Do this in remembrance of me." Buechner says, when Jesus says this, he wasn't prescribing a periodic slug of nostalgia. The past can be a living memory. But the past can also limit what we believe is possible in the present and the future. We can waste our days waiting for what once was while ignoring the blessings that God has for us now and a greater vision for the future. Or the past can be a springboard to trust God in this moment, right here, right now, in these circumstances, confident that the same way that God was faithful in the past, God will be faithful now. These memories become traditions. And these traditions call to mind the memories. We are about to enter a season of traditions. Perhaps you come from a family that if you do not have Thanksgiving on Thanksgiving Day, that is no longer Thanksgiving. If you do not have turkey, that is also not Thanksgiving. If we don't do it at Grandma's house, also not Thanksgiving. Maybe you come from one of those families. Tradition can be life-giving. But it can also be constricting. As people of faith, we do a lot of traditions. We keep a lot of traditions. Some of them, we can find ourselves going through the motions. I believe in God the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, our Father who art in heaven. And yet, those very things can move us to tears because we don't know how to pray, but we know how to say, Our Father who art in heaven. There's a historian who says that tradition is the living faith of the dead. Tradition is the living faith of the dead. Traditionalism is the dead faith of the living. He goes on to say, I suppose I should add, it is traditionalism that gives tradition such a bad name. So you Thanksgiving purists bound in your traditionalism, get a grip. We all have a past. All of us walking in the door today have a past. How we remember that past matters. how we share our past, share the stories that are us matters, right? I would dare say that each of us would walk out of this place feeling all the more alive, not just saying good morning, not just saying how was your week, but hearing what are some of those traditions for you? What are some of those living memories that give you hope? Because each of us is more than bones and more than flesh and more than blood. We are stories. And when we get to tell them, we come alive. And the people who get to hear them come alive. To circle back to Jesus and the Sadducees, Jesus is really inviting the Sadducees into a different story. It's a story beyond power. It's a story beyond security. And all the while, it's the same invitation that Jesus gives to us. To live a different story where we aren't clinging to the past, but we are fed and flourishing from that past, where we aren't set on security or figuring out how we can have the kind of power that makes us feel safe. Because what we see in the Sadducees is they can't even imagine the future that Jesus is announcing because they're so hung up on their power and place. There is a lot of this tension in our world today. There are a lot of people clinging to power, clinging to a way that once was. We hear it when we hear about racism, when we hear things like Christian nationalism, when we see people making other people less than so that they can feel safe, they can feel like they have a place in the world. There's a lot of fear in those kind of power trips. And I want to honor that fear. Because scared people often become people who hurt people. Right? So I want to honor that fear. And maybe you have some of that kind of fear. That the world isn't what it used to be. Things aren't how they used to be. For a lot of us, that's good news. The way Jesus brings this in for a landing, Jesus speaks in a language that the Sadducees would understand. Jesus quotes the scriptures, but he makes sure to quote the Sadducee scriptures. Moses said, not Isaiah or Ezekiel or Jeremiah. Moses said that God is the God of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. And then Jesus says, this is what Moses said. But did you notice that God didn't use the past tense? God is the God. Is present tense. Is future tense. God is the God of the living. That's a beautiful story to invite someone into. May we hear that invitation to serve the God of the living, who honors our past but calls us into the future. God, who is God, and we who in the world that Jesus envisions are children of God, children of the resurrection. Thanks be to God. Amen. Please be seated, friends. As the ushers come forward, we get to participate in God's different story. A story of generosity, a story of caring for our neighbors, a story of telling a better story. So whether you give through the ushers coming around today or using the link in your bulletin, I would encourage you to join this story. I'll invite the ushers to come, please. Show of hands if your toes were tapping. Friends, at this table, we get to live all the different themes in the scripture today. The past becoming real, memory, power and authority, tradition. And at this table, we can see all the ways that things can go sideways. They can become dull, dead, rote, familiar. We can also discover the ways where this meal and Christ's message, spoken so long ago, becomes real once more, as though it was just said today. For you, in remembrance of me. Friends, we come to this table. Sometimes we don't fully understand what's unfolding. And yet, the Spirit, through the bread, through the juice, invites us into mystery, invites us into community, and sends us out into the world ready for whatever comes our way. As we share this meal, I'm going to invite you to come up the front or through the center aisle. You'll receive a piece of bread and a cup of juice. And I ask you to just kind of circle around to your pew and have a seat, come in for a landing, and then you can take and eat at that time. There's gluten-free bread, of course. So join me in prayer. The Lord be with you. Lift up your hearts. Let us give thanks to the Lord our God. Thanks and praise to you, Creator and lover of the universe. You created all that was, you nurture all that is, you imagine all that will be. You are the pattern of community, three in one God of mercy. From the beginning of time, you created us for a relationship with one another, with the earth, and with you. When we reject your call to community, choosing isolation over partnership and brokenness over healing, you call us back again and again. You speak to us with words of grace and the promise of new life. And here, remembering that we are not alone, we join our voices with one another, asking your blessing, giving thanks to Jesus Christ, our host and our guest at this table. Through his birth, you took on flesh, affirming the goodness of our bodies, of this world. Through his life, you took on suffering, sharing the truth of hope and desperation. Through his death, you took on death, revealing the depth of your love for us. Through the resurrection, you brought new creation, embodying the promise of life everlasting. With thanksgiving, we take this bread and this fruit of the vine, gifts of the earth through which you bless us, and we offer ourselves in your service. So pour out your Holy Spirit upon us and upon these gifts of fruit and grain, the elements before us and the elements of those gathered online, that we may taste your goodness, see your presence, become one with you and your body. Gathered at your table, we join all your saints who have gone on before us and remember them now before you. As I speak these names, I'll just allow a brief silence as we hear a bell chime and call to mind these saints of God. Gary Cagle, Ken Couliard, Bob Kramer, Dorothy Defferding, Don Hurling, Jackie Hoganson, Lois Howell, Marlis Kelsey, Walt Clayman, Joyce Kunstman, Helen Lathrop, Rob Louders, Faye Neal, Judy Olivia, Clint Robson, Helen Worsma Slay, Bruce Togner, Betty Vosper, if there are others to name, I would invite you to name them at this time. These names, O God, are indeed your saints, and though they are gone from us, their memories give us life. May we treasure those memories, and may they call us to live lives worthy of your saints. In your name we pray. Amen. Friends, we give thanks that the Lord Jesus, on the night before he died, took bread, and after giving thanks to God, he broke it and he gave it to his disciples, saying, "Take and eat. This is my body. This is my body, given for you. Do this in remembrance of me." Same way he took the cup, saying, "This cup is the new covenant, sealed in my blood, shed for you for the forgiveness of sins. Whenever you drink of it, do this in remembrance of me." Friends, these are the gifts of God for the people of God. Come to the table. Encounter the God who is alive, who makes us alive. For all is ready. Let us stand and pray with one voice. God of glory, in this holy meal with Christ and with the great multitude of the faithful, those who have hunger and thirst no more, and worship night and day in your temple, lead us in the paths of righteousness and guide us to the springs of the water of life, until we join the choir of the redeemed, singing, "Salvation belongs to our God, who is seated on the throne, and to the Lamb, Jesus Christ our Lord." Friends, as we leave this space, we are invited to live the story that God invites us into. A story where our past can be redeemed. A story where we have hope in this moment and into the future. As we go receive this blessing, God thinks you are awesome. Thanks be to God. Amen.